Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much for allowing me to come here, speak about Srila Prabhupada. I think tonight we're having Prabhupada remembrances from my diary. And tomorrow, I guess we'll talk on Lord and Sringadev. So, without further ado, this work that I'm going to read and talk about now is going to be the 6th volume of this Transcendental Diary series. There's 5 volumes that have come out. That first 5 volumes cover from December of 1975 through till December of 1976. So there's 1 year, day by day. I kept a handwritten diary, and I was also recording Prabhupada's morning walks, his Bhagavatam classes. So I have all that recorded material. Then we have Prabhupada's correspondence. I got Prabhupada's correspondence, letters that were written to him, as well as his replies. And then another source was photographs. So what I've tried to do is create a picture in the reader's mind of what it was like being with Srila Prabhupada, traveling with him, meeting people, doing his pandals in India especially. So anyway, I'll start reading through it. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to put your hand up. Try and answer that. So without further ado, I'll start. Okay, so this is December the 4th, 1976. Prabhupada had made what turned out to be his last world tour in 1976. He came back to, well, he went to Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Hawaii, mainland America, several temples there, Canada, then over to England, then to Paris, and the new Mayapur farm there. And then finally a week in Tehran, which at that time was under the rule of the Shah. Just a few years later, of course, it was overturned. But at that time, we Americans were welcome, because the CIA, of course, had put the Shah of Iran back in power. So we owed them big. And so Americans could go there. We had a small group of devotees, all householders except one sannyasi, Parivrajacharya Swami. It was a unique situation. I'm going off cue a little bit here, but it's worth mentioning. Maitreya Rishi and his wife, he was a senior accountant for one of the big chartered accountancy firms, and he persuaded them to let him go to Iran, where he was born. He was a Zoroastrian, but he met the devotees in New York and became a devotee, and eventually got made as the GBC in Iran and the Middle East. So crossing from Europe back to India, it's not much to take a side trip to Tehran. So there was Navi Yogendra and his wife. They just had a small child. There's Dayananda Prabhu and his wife. They had a couple of kids. And there's Parivrajacharya Swami and one of the Brahmachari. So Parivrajacharya Swami, he was teaching yoga classes in the city. And some young man came. He had some drug problem. So he helped him do some yoga, resist the temptations of the drugs. So it turned out that this young man was something like a nephew of the Shah. And when this boy reported back to, I think it was his parents, he got to the Shah of Iran's sister. So she came and saw what he was doing. But of course she wasn't going to, she wanted to do the yoga, but she didn't want to do it in public. They're very, exclusive. So they had him coming up to the palace, Shah of Iran's palace, 2 or 3 times a week, teaching the Shah of Iran's sister how to do yoga, hatha yoga. So it was a unique situation. And Prabhupada was really pleased. He penetrated right up to the top level. And they eventually went to, her and her friends, they went to America. So they came to our Los Angeles temple. So the deities took prasadam. He was Rameshwar Prabhu Maharaj now. He was in charge of the BBT, so he gave them an original painting of Mother Yasoda and Krishna and Balaram, where they're stealing the yogurt. So that was hanging on the walls of the Shah of Iran's palace. So anyway, Prabhupada was very enthused in what they were doing. It was just a small group of householders, only 6 or 8 of them. But they were there in this, what would normally be considered a very difficult place to chant. They went there on Prabhupada's instructions, and something wonderful happened. So when we came back from Tehran, we arrived in Mumbai, Bombay at that time, and that was like the 15th of August. On the 17th, we came down to Hyderabad. Prabhupada opened a new temple there, installed some new deities, 6 feet high deities, Radha, Madan, Mohan, Gauratai, and some newly made Jagannath deities. So he spent about 7 days there. He met with the Minister for Endowments, Sauri Narayan, and he arranged for about 8 members of the Andhra Pradesh government, the top management, what do you call it, Chief Minister and members of Parliament. So he arranged for about 8 of the cabinet ministers to meet at Mr. Narayan's house. Prabhupada gave a lecture to them, about half an hour on Varnashram and the duties of the Kshatriyas. And all in all, it was a good reception. The opening of the temple was attended by the Chief Minister, and thousands of people came for the opening. So whilst he was there, he met with a man called Mr. Bedruka. So they had, the Bedruka family had 560 acres of land, and he wanted to donate it to ISKCON, kind of. Because in India, Prabhupada regularly got offers of land, but there would inevitably be some conditions on it, so that they weren't really giving it, they were just letting ISKCON use it till we built some facilities and, made the land nice, and then there would be some. So that's what happened with the Bedrukas. Prabhupada he formed a trust, Krishi Gauraksha Trust, and we had 12 trust board members, 7 from ISKCON and 5 from the family. So at this point, as long as Prabhupada was on the planet, there was no problem. And Prabhupada had decided that he would return to Hyderabad when this trust was legalized. So Mahamsa Swami, who's in charge there, he spent the next couple of months buzzing around, getting all the paperwork done. And then we wrote to Prabhupada in November, told him that now we're ready. We've got the legal documents sorted out. So you can come down and see what we've got. So we flew down on December the 2nd, just before we left Vrindavan. We were sitting in the car, myself and Jagadish, and then Prabhupada came. He got in the car to go to Delhi. And as Prabhupada stepped into the car, he said, now we're going to start a new phase of this movement. But then he didn't say anything more. So Jagadish asked him, well, what is that new phase, Srila Prabhupada? Varnashram. So that was Prabhupada's idea. He got a plan how to do a Varnashram society. So we flew down. We were met by a number of Western devotees. That time we didn't have so many Indian devotees, even in India. There was a couple, 2 or 3 brahmacharis, and then Yashodanandan Swami was there. Gagamuni Maharaj came down, and so anyway, when we arrived, Prabhupada was asked, can you please stay in the city temple for a few days? We're building a new house for you, like a bungalow on the land, and when it's ready then you can move in there. So Prabhupada agreed. So the first 2 or 3 days he stayed in Hyderabad, and that's where we're at with this narration. On December the 4th then, Prabhupada had been there 2 days. So despite his ill health, Prabhupada went for a walk again this morning. Hansadutta Maharaj has arrived with his bus crew. He had about 30 German devotees. They got in a bus. In 1974, ISKCON Germany were situated in a rented castle, Schloss Rettershof. And they were very active. They collected a huge amount of money. They had about 800,000 Deutschmarks in the bank. And then the police raided them. So they confiscated all the accounts. They arrested a bunch of devotees. And they put different charges on them. Fraud, unauthorized collections, like that. So they were trying to smash us. So Hansadutta, who was a GBC there, he got a little fried, and he asked Prabhupada if he could come and preach in India. So Prabhupada agreed, and he had been on a visit. He was Prabhupada's personal secretary for 1 month in 1975, December. That was right when I joined the party. And we had a 1-week Pandal program in a place called Sanand in Gujarat. You know that place? Sanand. Excuse my expression. So whilst we were there, we did a couple of village programs. And Prabhupada liked it so much. He said that in the 1950s, that was his plan. He would get together a small team. They'd get a couple of trucks. They'd take pandals with them. They'd take all the kitchen paraphernalia. And they'd go from one village to village. Come in, you do kirtan, you set up the Gaunitai deities, and then you go out and Harinam, kirtan, and invite all the locals to come to the program. And in the evening they would collect rice and dal and other subsies and things from the local population. Then they were cooking that up, and then the people would come in the evening and take prasadam. Then they'd go on to the next city. So that was Prabhupada's idea in the 50s, but he had no money and he had no manpower. So he couldn't do it at that time. But now, in 76, things had changed rather drastically. ISKCON was a big international movement. Prabhupada was no longer alone. And so when we went to Sanand, Prabhupada was telling us how he had this plan from 1955 or 56. So Hansadutta got fired up discussing with Prabhupada about doing the village-to-village programs. Prabhupada did say, he said that if we can go to every village and town in India, we can turn the face of India in a year if we just do our Sankirtan. And he'd been further encouraged by Indira Gandhi. She was the Prime Minister at that time. She agreed to have a meeting with Prabhupada in, I think, August of 75. And Prabhupada was hoping that he would get the government to give us funding or some endorsement, something to help spread the Sankirtan movement. So, unfortunately, the Prime Minister or President of Bangladesh, what was his name? Mujibur Rahman. He was assassinated the day before that Prabhupada was going to meet with Indira Gandhi. So she still had the meeting, but she was so paranoid that she could hardly speak. She might be next. And at that time, she'd already put India under an emergency, official emergency. She'd arrested about 1,800 of her opponents, put them all in jail. And so Prabhupada didn't really get a chance to discuss with her in detail what he wanted to do. But he heard later on from the niece of Subhash Chandra Bose. He had been one of the freedom fighters. So his niece, she was a friend of Indira Gandhi's. So apparently Indira Gandhi told her that she thought Prabhupada was a very saintly person, very genuine. So he said, this is a chance. So Hansadutta, because of the problems in Germany, he came to India, and he was meant to go to GBC of Vrindavan, and he was given the south especially. He came with about 30 or 40 men from Germany, and they bought 2 big buses, and they were doing this village-to-village preaching from the buses. So it was quite a nice situation. So Hansadutta then, he came to Hyderabad to see Srila Prabhupada, and then there was the local devotees. Let me just change my glasses here. Okay. Prabhupada spoke little. The clamour of traffic and honking of cars and truck horns steadily increasing as the citizens of Hyderabad shook off their night's submission to ignorance and began again their daily activities of survival. By the railway station, a loud, high-pitched hoot called our attention to an old steam engine train as it hauled its load, hissing and clanking through the city. Prabhupada was interested to see some visitors from the Middle East walking around in their flowing white robes with their traditional keffiyeh, the white cotton headdress held in place with an agal, a circlet of rope. Vasu Ghosh explained that India is a popular destination for the Arabs. Many men come here to find a wife. They have so much money, he told Srila Prabhupada, but they have only a desert, so they have to come to India to try and enjoy. There's nothing to enjoy in Arabia, simply sand. In Bombay also, the big hotels are filled with Arabians. Prabhupada nodded. India is good income from Arabian tourists, he said. Pastor Ghosh, who has been in the Middle East to collect funds from the Indians there, added that in Bahrain, he had met the brother of the Arab ruler. He said that he liked India the best of any place that he'd been to. He'd been all over the world. Prabhupada tipped his head in acknowledgement. That's a fact. So after the walk, Prabhupada returned to the temple. He greeted the deities, received Guru Puja, and then went straight to his room without giving class. Again, the flower arrangements were very poor. The day before, he criticized the temple management for not having nice flowers, just old ones, and no variety. So Prabhupada, he would greet the deities every day at 7 o'clock, and Prabhupada didn't miss anything. He saw what was going on, and so he told them off for not having proper flowers, fresh flowers, but he didn't say too much about it because the temple was new and the devotees were just learning how to manage it. But that was a running thing in Vrindavan also. After 1 year, Prabhupada, from the opening, we spent 3 months in Vrindavan in September, October, November of '76. And several times Prabhupada saw when they opened the curtains, either the deities didn't have any garland, or the flowers that they were using were really low standard. And I think about the third time that happened, Prabhupada greeted, first of all, Gauna Zayan, his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Then he moved up to Krishna and Balaram's altar. And when the curtains opened, there was no garlands. That time Prabhupada got angry, told him, this is another farce. And he reprimanded him. So later on, he had the flower seller brought to his room. And then he got on his case that you're giving bad flowers. So he made some arrangement to get it, to fix up a regular supply of good flowers. So again, here in Hyderabad, the same problem. In October, Jagat Guru Swami had written to Srila Prabhupada to ask if he could go to South Africa to preach, following the departure of the Yatras GBC, Pusta Krishna Swami. However, Hansadutta had objected that just a few months before, he had given Jagat Guru $400 to go to the Middle East and raise funds from the Indians there for his travelling party. Prabhupada had replied to Jagat Guru's letter. By encouraging him to stick with his collecting for Hansadutta's party. But he had also mentioned that if he wanted to change his engagement, he should at least return the $400. Consequently, due to not having sufficient funds to go to South Africa, Jagat Guru Maharaj returned to India last month. He was told by Achyutananda Swami in Bombay that a sannyasi was needed in Hyderabad, and so he headed south. He's been helping with the preaching here, and today, as soon as the Hansadutta came, he handed him back his $400. Although Srila Prabhupada did also caution Jagat Guru Maharaj in his October letter about changing his engagement too often. He has not raised any objections to his sudden appearance here in Hyderabad. Prabhupada received 2 letters, one from Jayapataka Swami. He received 2 letters from Jayapataka Swami. One, written a month ago, was dated November the 2nd. It was accompanied by an additional handwritten note dated November the 23rd, which explained that he planned to give the first letter to Srila Prabhupada when he arrived in Mayapur. And then when that trip was cancelled, he intended to send the letter with Shatadanya Maharaj when the new car was delivered to Vrindavan. But Shatadanya didn't go, so therefore he sent it now. In his first letter, Jayapataka Maharaj supplied more details about our land acquisition application. So this is Mayapur. And Prabhupada told the devotees, told Jayapataka Maharaj, that we should try and get a government acquirement of 300 acres. Prabhupada wanted to build a city, so he needed at least 300 acres. And of course, what happened was that the communists came into power in 1977. And as soon as they came into power, that was it. They were very inimical towards ISKCON because we were religious, because many of the ISKCON devotees at that time in India were Americans. So there was this thing about we're a front for the CIA. There was a newspaper called the Blitz. So you can imagine what kind of articles they ran in there. It's like they call it yellow paper, tabloid newspapers. So they were putting it out that the CIA was working through ISKCON. Otherwise, how is this old man who had no money 5 years ago is now building temples all over the country? Where did he get the money? It must have been from the CIA. And also, they noted that these American devotees, they were going all over the country. So he said they're spying everything out. So that's something that Prabhupada had to deal with. And in Mayapur, Prabhupada told them, so you make an application to the government to get 300 acres of land, acquire it. Acquire it means that they don't pay, if they approve some endeavor which requires more than the allowable amount of land that can be possessed, then you have to get special government approval. And they would fix a price for whatever land you wanted, and the farmers would have to sell that at that price. So Prabhupada had Jayapataka Maharaj working on that. So Jayapataka Maharaj supplied more details about our land acquisition application. He has looked more closely into the idea of forming a cooperative, an idea that has been touted by a local minister as a way of appeasing the local farmers. Srila Prabhupada had already expressed his opinion on October the 23rd that the idea was absurd, and now Jayapataka Swami said that it was also illegal because cooperative law does not allow for an isolated group to manage. So there was a new DM, district magistrate. It's a woman. She was, again, inimical to ISKCON. So when the application came through, or was put through, she wouldn't approve it. but she suggested that we make it cooperative with the local farmers. And then I guess that would be some kind of profit-sharing endeavour. But Prabhupada knew that you don't make joint ventures with farmers, and especially not in Bengal. So he rejected it, and Jabitaka Maharaj went to see her, but he said, I found her quite emotional, anti-foreigners, and sentimental. It appeared that she used her sentimentality as a ploy to avoid any sensible discussion for the cause of having this development work. To keep this report short, I'll not go into our interview more here. However, she said that she would meet with you many times on this matter. We presented all good arguments, but she brushed them aside with sentiment and emotional pleas. We tried to have the matter decided straight away, avoiding all these obstacles. So India, after independence, they passed some land laws. Individuals could not own more than 24 acres. There was a land ceiling, and there was a big push after independence by Vinoba Bhave, who's a contemporary of Gandhi's. They did this, they walked all around India, getting big landowners to give the land to the local farmers. And so it was a sensitive matter, and especially in Bengal. The Communist Party got all its strength from the rural areas. They weren't so popular in the city. But the rest of Bengal, they were very active, and they were against Americans, religious organizations, and this lady was saying that they would not approve. So it was difficult. On other matters, Jabitaka Maharaj reported that government concession paper was available in Calcutta for our printing work, so there was no need for him to get it through Gopal Krishna Prabhu. In Mayapur, some land has become available in the area where we want to construct our main temple for 1,600 to 1,700 rupees per biga. This is approximately 1/3 of an acre. Just recently I was told that one kata, I think it's about 1/20 of an acre, was sold to somebody for 93 lakhs. So that's, in 40 years. If you haven't got anywhere in Mayapur, and you'd like to have somewhere in Mayapur, I advise you to go there and do it quickly, because the prices are going out of the roof. So anyway, this was 1,600 to 1,700 rupees per biga, and he's in negotiations with the owners to buy it while he's still keeping in touch with our land acquisition and proposed through Abhiram Das in Calcutta. There was some small problem with the false report that he said some locals attribute to Prabhupada's godbrother, Damodar Maharaj. And he also mentioned that there is some confusion now as to who will take over the leadership of the Chaitanya Mat after the disappearance of Tirtha Maharaj. Prabhupada's godbrother, Bhaktivilas Tirtha Maharaj, he was in charge of the Gaudiya Mat and the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, and he expired, I think on September of 76, and there was some speculation about who was going to be the next head, the next acharya. So, as a result, 2 brahmachari brothers, one of whom was a disciple of Tirtha Maharaj, and the other not yet initiated, have left them and come to us. So there was ISKCON was growing, it was opulent by their standards. So we had this happen sometimes, that some brahmachari from a Gaudiya center would turn up and want to join. So generally Prabhupada told them, now you go back and get permission from your guru or your leaders in your mat. So he didn't want to have any bad feelings. So if we just start pinching their brahmacharis, then it can cause a problem. So finally, his handwritten note informed Srila Prabhupada of some serious health problems that he's been having. During the week of Durga Puja, he had a high fever for 8 days and had to rest for another week afterwards. Then again, after going out preaching with Shravanananda Prabhu, he became ill for a day. A doctor diagnosed a weak pulse and ordered him to rest for 2 weeks. Then again, in mid-November, So we went on. Just yesterday we learned that a group of Mohammedans had gotten together and they claimed that they have cursed me because of my role in the land acquisition about 2 months ago. I'm not afraid with your blessings and Krishna's blessings, so what can they do? Some people say that I should chant the Narayan Kavacha, protective mantra, protection against their curse. Since the period of my illness, 2 court cases have come up against me for things relating to the land or Mayapur. So that was Chapataka Maharaj. And he also added an update on the land acquisition prospects. Since this letter, I have not met the district magistrate, but she has sent an inspector of cooperative here, who has admitted that cooperatives are not feasible for our clan. I have talked with some local leaders before my last attack of fever, and they were favourable for giving us some land for acquisition by a joint government agreement, but these discussions are not yet completed. So there was all kinds of mischief going on around that when word got out that ISKCON was trying to get 300 acres of acquired land. Some people were happy, and most people weren't, including some of Prabhupada's godbrothers. And there was an incident that Jabhataka reported a few months before, where one man, he had gotten a petition with about 1,000 villagers signed, saying that they supported ISKCON's proposal for acquisition of the 300 acres. But when he was on his way bringing the petition to Jabhataka Maharaj, he was kidnapped by members of another Gaudiya mat further down the road. And they took the petition off him and chastised him. Why are you helping these foreigners? And they burnt the petition. So that was reported back to Jabhataka Maharaj. So there was mixed feelings when ISKCON first started in India. A lot of suspicion. And so we had to just, Prabhupada, I mean, it was all on Prabhupada. He was the only one that knew how to do anything. So he had to direct us in every place. He said in Vrindavan, the anti-party, as they call them, is the Goswami families, because they control Vrindavan. In Bombay, it's the municipality. They tried to wreck the Bombay temple, demolish it with the deities still inside. And in Mayapur, he said, "It's my God brothers." So Prabhupada was very determined whether he got help or not. He didn't care. He was doing Lord Chaitanya's service. Okay, so far Jayapataka Swami's illness goes, your illness is the result of too hard work. Remain in Mayapur, take rest as much as necessary, and work through your assistance, and chant Hare Krishna. Hoping this would meet you in good health. So that was, I mean, they do some things like that in the villages there. They have various kinds of black magic that they put curses on people and cause disturbances. And Prabhupada said, "You're just working too hard." Okay, so there was a good attendance at Prabhupada's afternoon darshan, ensuring a lively exchange. Amongst the visitors was Mr. J.B. Muchal Rao, a local member of Parliament and a great admirer of Srila Prabhupada and a friend of the devotees. Srila Prabhupada, speaking mainly in Hindi and sometimes breaking into English, strongly emphasized the importance of Shastra, especially the Bhagavad Gita, as the source of real knowledge. People have been misled, he said, by the imaginations of so-called swamis and by politicians who declare that Kurukshetra and the Pandavas to be simply a metaphor for some idea of their own making. Everything is in the Bhagavad Gita, he told us, and there's no need to approach any other literature, or for that matter, any other Shastra. When a lady visitor asked, or said that some people complain that in our Krishna consciousness movement, we do not put any importance on the Ramayana, Prabhupada told her, only fools say that. They should know well that the same Lord Ram is non-different from Krishna. There is no need for Ramayana to be told separately. Just one Bhagavad Gita contains everything. Sometimes Bhagavan takes the form of Ram and sometimes the form of Krishna. Who is saying that Ramayana is not read? They do not know who is Ram and who is Krishna. There are so many scriptures and commentaries, he said, that it's not possible to read them all in one lifetime. Therefore, he told his audience, in Kali Yuga, there is one scripture, Bhagavad Gita, which is sung by the lotus mouth of the Lord. The Lord, in a very simple way and in a wonderful language, has briefly summarized everything. Declaring the mental speculators to be most unfortunate, Prabhupada condemned their misinterpretations. He said this. Declaring the mental speculators to be most unfortunate, Prabhupada condemned their misinterpretations. The meaning of Mahabharata is Greater India, and they just kick on it. Such big rascaldom. Mahabharata is the Greater Indian history. The Kurukshetra war happened during this time, and up until now, Kurukshetra is existing. There is also a railway station. Big acharyas also accepted, and the politician said that Kurukshetra war never happened, and there's no such place. He scanned the small group of listeners. What do you say about this? Big acharyas like Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, they accept this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and also our India's great persons accept it. And in between, the fool says, Now in Calcutta there's one, Dr. Chatterjee. He says that Ram and Sita are brother and sister. Now, this Dr. Chatterjee, is he a scholar or a fool? In our great scriptures there is a description of Ram and Sita and Ravana's fight, and it is all in great detail. And these people say it is nothing. Both Ram and Sita were brother and sister. There's this Kali Yuga. Everyone has his own opinion. Presently, scriptures don't mean anything to them. Each one goes according to their own opinion. Everyone says that whatever opinions are there, let them be. This is accepted very much, very generous. Whatever opinions are there, everything is all right. But what we accept is whatever Krishna says, that is right. Whether you accept or not, that's your wish. But this is what we say. Big sadhus, yogis in Europe and America, with whom there is a lot of acquaintance, but not a single person is Krishna's devotee. Not a single person. Whereas we tell them to do devotional service, and there are thousands who have agreed. So we don't compromise. We accept that Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. We accept that whatever Krishna says is right. If you wish to accept, accept. Otherwise, go. There is no need for compromise. Stick to the words of Krishna, and then you'll succeed. Why should we make compromise? We never make compromise. Whatever is spoken in the Gita is correct. And if you like, you can take. And if you don't like, don't take. Prabhupada's non-compromise stance is not fanaticism, but rather total focus. Here in India especially, people are confused by a plethora of gods and goddesses, and they're unable to distinguish the singular significance of Lord Krishna's form, even though the Bhagavad Gita is so clear. As soon as one guest began to say that God exists in many forms, Prabhupada cut in sharply. What business you have about many forms? Krishna says, Mamikam. Why should you not take that? Why should you go to God has many forms? When the guests began to respond, but our people probably again interjected. Why do you say like that? God says, Mamikam. God has many forms. This is why all these things are there, but you take this form of God. Which form? The man asked. Krishna. Otherwise, how he is God if he has no forms? That is already explained. Advaita Achyutam Anadam Anantarupam. God has many forms. This is accepted. And this you consider intelligence. When God is saying directly, Mamikam Saranam Raja, he says, Mamikam, take me alone. That is your business. There is no doubt that he has many forms. But how will you go after many? He gave a new example of the supermarkets in Europe, where one can go and get everything from a single source. And also he's often repeated examples of watering the roots of the tree instead of the leaves and branches. And then also feeding the body through one hole, not through every hole. Each hole is different, it's meant for different works, he said. For eating, it is a different hole, like Mamikam. If you want to have a relationship with God, then accept. Not that the many different forms of God are like holes. This is donkey thinking. When the Lord himself is saying Mamikam, then why not? Then why question? This is all rascaldom. Perhaps I got a little annoyed with this guest when asked what was the meaning of can't read this, it's not too much. I'll skip that. After a short exchange between several of the guests, in which one advised that if there was any doubt it should be cleared by inquiry, Prabhupada relented a little and told his questioner, "It is seen in everybody, surrender to their beloved God. What is the actual meaning of surrender? Who will make you understand? God is saying, Mamikam Charanam Braja. It is your wish to surrender unto me. Otherwise, you taste your seat to Thakuru. Do as you like. God does not force. Why force? The Lord has given independence to you. He won't disturb that. He is advising you to accept and surrender to Him. He won't, but whether you surrender or not, that is your wish." Mr. Rao seems to be quite well versed in the Gita and occasionally interjected comments and realizations of his own. Prabhupada politely supported him and encouraged his participation while adding further dimensions to his understanding. Picking up on the point of voluntary surrender, Mr. Rao observed, "On the last day, 18th day of the war, if I'm not mistaken, Kurukshetra, the Lord has said this, if you don't want to hear me, don't tell my advice to anyone." Prabhupada was pleased to take his lead. "Yes," he said, "one who does not do tapasya, he has to be rejected." Turning to Tejas, who was our temple president in Delhi at that time, he told him, "Find out this verse." Tejas complied, reading out the Sanskrit, and Srila Prabhupada explicated the meaning. So, one who is envious, because envy is a great sin. For one who does not have any austerity, one who is a non-devotee, and for one who is envious, don't tell them anything. They're like donkey. But even we tell the donkeys, listen, this will be auspiciousness for you. The Lord has forbidden to tell these rascals, but we must go to these rascals. They don't want to hear, but we want them to hear. So we just swallow our anger. The Lord has forbidden us this. But for those who preach, for them, the Lord says, Nachatasman manusheshu kashtin me priyakritama. There's no more dear to me, no one more dear to me than one who preaches, even though there are many obstacles. One of the guests asked why the body and spirit are not compatible. While in the body, he asked, why are we not able to handle insults? Prabhupada explained that actually there's no incompatibility. If the soul is within the body, if there's no soul within the body, then it is useless. Why do you say that they are not, the body and soul are not compatible? Your body is there, you are still talking. But as soon as you will go, the same mouth will be there, but you cannot talk. The same ear will be there, but you will not hear. So why do you say it is incompatible? As long as spirit is there in your body, you are talking, you're hearing, you're challenging. And as soon as the spirit will go, that's it. If I kick your face, you will not challenge me. Switching to English from the Hindi that he'd been speaking, Prabhupada added an ontological aspect to the man's inquiry about intolerance to insults. Because the spirit is there within the body, therefore you are so proud of challenging God. And as soon as the spirit is over, everything is finished. It is not incompatible. You can exist, but it is different. Just like you are existing within your shirt. The shirt is different from you, but still you are keeping yourself with the shirt. You are utilizing the shirt for your movement. When you are out of the shirt, it has no meaning. That you have to understand. But if you understand the shirt is yourself, then you are a fool. That people are doing here. This body has nothing to do with the spirit, but they're accepting the body as spirit. As Prabhupada elaborated on the basic point that we are not the body and declared that a dog cannot understand this, only a human being. Mr. Rao raised the question based on Bhagavad Gita 5:18, that a truly learned person sees there is no difference between a dog, a cow, and a Brahmana. Why is it so, he asked. So this is something that people get puzzled about. What is equal vision? And all over the world we see that there's so many liberation movements that want to be freed from oppression. So there's like a political ideal that everybody should be equal. But that's not the fact. We're not equal. Women are not equal to men. Men are not equal to I lost my track. There's this push for equality in various manifestations. So if we accept it, if we base our understanding of equality on these bodies, then it'll be a failure, because we are differently able, as they say. Different persons in different places in the world, politically, socially, intellectually. Not everybody's the same. If everybody was equal, then why have universities like Harvard, Cambridge, Oxford? Why don't they just say we have 50 seats, so the first 50 people that walk through the door, they get a seat in the university? That would be equality. But it's not what happens. They have a system whereby they only get people of a certain high intellect and allow them, but they don't take anybody from the ordinary working class. So it was something that came up quite often. What is real equality? And Prabhupada explained it was a declaration of spiritual vision, not material. That is the meaning. For the seer, coats may seem to be different from each other, but the one living inside the coat is the spirit. This is the one with equal vision. Samadarshi means the one who sees inside the one wearing the coat and not the coat. So here is a Brahmana Pandit, big Pandit, he's sitting. A dog is also sitting. So how does one become a Pandit? One who just sees the Brahmana, a dog, he does not see the Brahmana's body or a dog's body. He only sees that there is a soul in the Brahmana's body and in the dog's body. Try to understand. If somebody says Brahmana and dog are the same, then they think, what? Is he mad? Prabhupada chuckled. He does not see the external coat, but he sees the person inside the coat. So that is why he's Samadarshan. If somebody says that he sees a great scholar, a Pandit, and a dog as equal, will he be called as mad? This is only seeing of the external body. He's seeing the person inside the external body. So Prabhupada kept up a steady flow of dialogue as his visitors came and went. His theme was constant. Just accept Bhagavad Gita without interpretation. Please read Bhagavad Gita. It contains the answers for all questions and all knowledge. The Lord himself is saying, one should read with concentration. Don't consider yourself a big scholar. Listen to the conversation that went on in Kurukshetra. Don't become mad, leaving all your foolishness. Leave all your foolishness. Do what the Lord is saying. If we become big scholars, then the foolishness in us will become greater foolishness. It becomes necessary to interpret something when it is not understood properly. If something is very clear for us, then what is the need for any interpretation? Is there any need? He put in a strong plea to his guests to take the mission of preaching the Bhagavad Gita seriously. Teach this in your house. Teach this to your young children. Everybody can become guru, even in the house. One who gives knowledge is a guru, but the storehouse of all knowledge is Bhagavad Gita itself. Teach whatever is given in the Gita to your children, and thus you can benefit them and yourself. It is not that you have to send them away. If you can do it, do it. If not, you have your friends, family, relatives. Make them understand. This is the mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. This is the mission of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Become guru and give proper knowledge according to your capacity. Prabhupada sometimes used the example of Saraswati, the daughter of Shyamasundar and Malati. She was the first Western child to be born in the movement. So when they went to India in 70, the family was some of the first devotees to come here to India, and they would have the panel programs, then they would have prasadam distribution, and Saraswati would go, Prabhupada saw her go up to a man, and she asked him, "Do you know who is Krishna?" And the man shook his head. "Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead." She's only like 3 years old, but she's telling this man that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he said, that's all you have to do, just repeat what you've read. Read the Bhagavad Gita, tell it to others. If you can expound on it and keep the same meaning, you're welcome. But he says, don't cheat. Don't take the words of Krishna and then construe them to mean something that was never intended. And that example there of Kurukshetra, political examination. That Kurukshetra means the field of the body, and the Pandavas are the 5 senses, like that. So it's just I'm coming to the conclusion that non-violence from Bhagavad Gita. So Prabhupada was really intent on breaking that shroud of ignorance that non-devotees try to cover us with. He wanted to, this was a constant thing. Prabhupada, throughout his whole preaching, was Bhagavad Gita as it is. And as we mentioned before there, that nobody became a devotee until Prabhupada put out the Bhagavad Gita as it is. So many yogis and swamis, but just juggling words. Prabhupada was very straightforward. Take it as it is, literal. So spirituality is so fundamental to India's culture and lifestyle that questions about meditation and mind control come frequently and automatically. It is a topic that everybody knows of, but nobody knows about. This evening's session was no different than scores of others Srila Prabhupada has hosted. One of his guests put forth the almost obligatory inquiry. How do you concentrate the mind? And Prabhupada answered with clarity and timeless enthusiasm. Wherever the mind goes, one has to bring it back. The duty of the mind is to run, chanchala. Therefore, yoga practice is necessary. By not controlling the mind becomes an enemy, your enemy. By controlling the mind, it may be changed. If the mind is not controlled, then yoga is necessary for this. But for a devotee, he simply surrenders his mind to the lotus feet of the Lord, and that's it. Those who surrender their minds to to the lotus feet of the Lord, then the worries go far away. The Lord will himself see to it. Therefore, in this Kali Yuga, one who surrenders his mind to the lotus feet of the Lord, he is more intelligent. Okay. Mr. Rao observed that the Gita does not recommend fasting as a way for gaining control over the mind. And again, Prabhupada took his lead and provided deeper insight. Fasting is to take vegetarian food, take the Lord's prasadam. This is fasting. Only offer to Krishna and eat. Don't take foodstuffs from outside. The Lord says that of the sense organs, the first is the tongue. There are other sense organs, but with these sense organs, the Lord can be approached. If you want to see, with the eyes, we cannot see God properly. With the ears, we cannot hear Him properly. All the senses are like this. This is Kali Yuga's effect. But there is one sense organ. What is that? The tongue. Sevamukhi ijivado. There is a straightforward question. Can one attain God with the tongue? With the tongue. Not with the eyes, not with the ears, not with the hands, not with the feet, but with the tongue. That is the fact. Because the control of the tongue by eating prasadam and not eating any other, and by speaking only Krishna Katha and nothing else. The question of reading scripture came up again. This time a guest mentioning that Madhvacharya and Raghavendra Swami of the Madhva line have written more than 40 books. Prabhupada replied agreeably, pointing out that he has also written so far 80 books. That's a good comparison. The main thing was that any writing should be in glorification of Krishna, otherwise it's a waste of time. You may write books, many, but the central point is Krishna. The books in which there is no Hare Katha described could be a very nice book, grammatically, theoretically, metaphorically, everything very nice. But Chitrapadam, Vachaj means words. So Naya Vachaj Chitrapada Hare Yasho Jagavat Pavitra Pragita. But there's no description of the Supreme Lord, then it's just like garbage. It's enjoyed by the crows. In that place where in that place the white swan does not go. The swan requires very nice water, very flowering gardens. The swan will be there. And the crows will be there where all garbage has been thrown. All nasty things, they will be there. So that he quoted that verse from the Bhagavatam. That literature that does not glorify the Supreme Lord and His activities, then that's like a place fit for crows, where all the garbage is dumped. On the other hand, the Bhagavatam, the Gita, voice that describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's a place for swans. If you accept Krishna as the Supreme Lord, he said, Prabhupada said, then you belong to Madhvacharya. And then the guest tried to say that Madhvacharya's works were the preferred text, and Srila Prabhupada told him that he agreed, but only under a certain condition. Yes, it is preferred text, only for the person who has understood it. Otherwise, it is simply a lump of matter, just like one bundle of books. To one who is a learned pandit, it has value. And what is the value to the Gada, ass, who is simply bearing this bundle of books? If we simply carry the books, it is not knowledge. We must know what is in the books. That is knowledge. Oh, I'm carrying so many books on an ass. I know these books. If you want to know the subject matter, what is delineated there, then you can know. Simply, I'm carrying so many books. What is the use? Srila Prabhupada may have also been thinking of Pradyumna Prabhu. He was Prabhupada's Sanskrit secretary. And Pradyumna probably travelled with Prabhupada on his party more than any other devotee in the movement. He was a self-taught Sanskrit scholar. Never went to university and took any courses. He just knew Sanskrit. And as soon as he met up with Prabhupada, he joined the movement, I think in 1968. And Prabhupada was just gearing up there to get his books and writings published. So Pradyumna became an integral part of all of that. But he had one bad habit. He liked to collect books. All kinds of books. And he had them all in the trunk. I heard Prabhupada say several times, once in Bhubaneswar, once in Bombay, that he's simply travelling all over the world like an ass with this box of books, tin trunk, the steel trunks that you get in India. So he used to get on his case. You should just understand the essence of a few books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion, like that. But he unnecessarily says, like an ass, carrying these books all over the world. In an entertaining and informative session, one other topic came up, worship of the demigods, that elicited from Srila Prabhupada a barbed comment about a well-known bogus guru, Sai Baba. One devotee mentioned a family that he knew who worshipped Krishna, Keshava, but who were also worshipping demigods. Srila Prabhupada immediately quoted Lord Krishna, who declares such worship as unintelligent, Anya Devata. One who worships other demigods is a fool. The Lord is saying, Kamaistashtaya Ritagyana Prabhajantain Devata. If the fools want, then who can stop them? Worshipping demigods, Prabhupada said, is like a foolish person who thinks that a big government official and a police constable are on the same level. Therefore, here, take some cheap god. Somebody says, I am God. He has made some gold, not creates, but he becomes God. If somebody becomes God by making some gold, a little bit of gold, then what about the one who's made the gold mine? Is he not God? And then, on this ordinary planet, we do not know how many gold mines there are. This is just about one planet. What about the crores of other planets? In the upper regions, there are planets where there is a way of liberation. Everything is there, as it is. In one place there is the gold maker, the Lord himself. So why he made other crores and crores of planets where there is storage of emeralds, storage of pearls? Will they consider him God? The fools have no knowledge about who God is. So Sai Baba was very popular at that time. And his trick was that he'd show his hand and then open it up, close it and open it, and there'd be small gold nuggets. Or he would make this vibhuti, ash. And you see pictures of him where he's got his hand and then imposed on the picture. It looks like a swirl of dust, and he sprinkles that on his followers, and they claim to get miracle cures. So Prabhupada challenged, he said that Krishna says that any difficulties in your life, you have to tolerate it. There's no magic cures. So Sai Baba is a magician, that's all. Yura, he said, imitating Sai Baba, he said, here is some ash, and you're an ass. So, Prabhupada spoke out strongly against that kind of cheating. You were an ass, so here is some ash. As the arati commenced in the temple room below, Prabhupada brought the meeting to a halt, sending everybody downstairs to worship the real Lord of the universe. It has been another enlivening get-together, with everyone feeling blessed and enlightened by his divine grace's words of wisdom, his strong convictions, and his deep knowledge of the transcendental science. Even if they don't always fully agree with him, no one leaves without being fully impressed by his saintly character and demeanour. And some, like Mr. Rao, are becoming true followers. I've got one more entry, short one for this December the 4th. Happily and unexpectedly, Pradyumna and Arundhati and Aniruddha arrived by train today with Akshaya Prabhu. So Pradyumna was on Prabhupada's party. He joined up with him in May of '76. He remained on the party up until Prabhupada's departure. But when we got to Los Angeles in June, Pradyumna's wife, Arundhati, was there, and they had their son, Aniruddha. He was about 6 years old. So he added Pradyumna and his wife and son to his travelling party. And that way it was, Arundhati was an expert in transcribing Prabhupada's nightly dictations. And Prabhupada would use the dictaphone. He would click it on and off frequently, even in the middle of a word. Or sometimes he would speak and then switch it on, so you missed a couple of words. And Arundhati got stuck in Delhi. They had to get some visa work done. So when we went down to Hyderabad, Pradyumna and Arundhati and her son, they were delayed, and now finally, after 2 or 3 days, they got that corrected. But myself and Jagadish Prabhu, we were told by Prabhupada that we should do the transcribing so that there's no delays. So when we had to go at it, I couldn't figure out a single word that Prabhupada was saying on the dictaphone. And Jagadish also couldn't figure it out. So we were relieved when they arrived, and Arundhati took up a service of transcribing again. So Pradyumna's visa application is still under consideration, but it turns out that they made a mistake with the date on his passport. So there was no requirement for him to remain in Delhi. So that solves the transcription problem. Arundhati lost no time in getting to work. What Jagadish and I failed to do in several hours yesterday, she accomplished in just a few minutes. Maria is fully attuned to Srila Prabhupada's accent and method of dictation, and she had no trouble at all in filling in the gaps we left in our typing. Okay, so I'm going to finish at this point. If anybody has any questions, we can.
Will we be signing the books at the back here, or will we be signing the books today?
Oh yeah. So this is a sample from the Transcendental Diary. It's I've got 5 volumes out. We have them up here. This is going to be the 6th volume. This visit to Hyderabad and back to Bombay, and there's a trip to Florida. And I hope that this will be published before the end of this year. Then I have, from the materials that I have, I've got enough to put out the 7th volume. So there's a set 1 to 5 there. And then there's, as Prabhu mentioned, there's back to Vrindavan. That's a separate diary that I kept. I initially traveled with Prabhupada from November 75 to mid-March 1977. And Prabhupada made me the GBC in Australia at that time. Prabhupada had a system for his secretaries. He had a permanent secretary, and any GBC man could book in for 1 month and join his party and travel with him to get trained up and inspired. So Prabhupada made me the GBC in April of 77. In May, he had this health crisis. He was in Rishikesh, and then he got suddenly very sick. He told the devotees to take me back to Vrindavan. I may leave my body. So they rushed him to Vrindavan. Rishikesh is not that far. And then the GBCs were all called for special final meetings with Srila Prabhupada. So I got the message a little bit late. I got there at the end of May. The immediate crisis seemed to pass, and most of the GBCs had gone back to their zones. So I stuck around for a couple of weeks, and I booked in with Tamal Krishna Goswami, who was Prabhupada's full-time secretary at that time, that I'd like to come and be the visiting GBC secretary for the month of October. So at the end of September, I hopped on a plane to Bombay. Prabhupada had gone to London for that last trip. Then when he returned, he came back to Bombay. And they were waiting for the temple to get sufficiently constructed with all the marble work and everything. So we're hoping for a temple opening within a couple of months. So anyway, the day that I arrived, a decision was made to take Prabhupada from Bombay to Vrindavan. I asked Prabhupada, he had all the senior men assembled in this room. There's 9 of us. And one by one, we were to give a vote on whether Prabhupada should stay in Bombay or whether he should go back to Vrindavan. And when it was my turn, I said, well, because I just arrived, I wasn't fully tuned in. So I said, is it for health or is it for preaching? So he said, it's for health. So then I voted with everybody else that Prabhupada should go back to Vrindavan. That evening, Tamal Krishna Maharaj dispatched me to Delhi. I got the last plane out. And Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu was the temple president there at that time. He was still a brahmachari. And we were all friends since he had joined. And we went out. He had he was a friend of Krishna's. in the temple in Delhi. He wasn't a life member, but he was a friend, and he had a wooden furniture store. They made all wooden chairs and beds and things like that. So we went to see him, Mr. Dewan, and he had one bed, double bed. So we bought that, and we shipped that off with other paraphernalia to Vrindavan. Then I rang Tamal Krishna Maharaj. I told him we're ready to receive Prabhupada now. The road to Agra was flooded, so you couldn't go by road. There was some kind of strike going on at the airlines, and so Prabhupada came with about 50 devotees to Mathura railway station from Bombay, and from there we took Prabhupada to Vrindavan. So that was it. Prabhupada was there for six weeks. He left on the 14th of February, 1977. So as soon as we got to Vrindavan, I started to keep another diary. So that diary has been published as a separate volume. It's called Back to Vrindavan, and it's that last 4 weeks or 6 weeks of Prabhupada's presence on the planet. So that's a good read. So thank you all very much. I haven't been too boring. Is there any questions? Oh, this is Abai Charan.
You can sign the books.
He's my book distributor.
Does anyone have a pen here for Prabhu to sign? Anyone have a spare pen?
And I can autograph any books that are sold.
Hare Prabhu ki Jai. Prabhupada ki Jai.